I think we're doing finance first.
Okay, we ready? Are we? Oh, this is outreach.
We really don't have any audit and finance.
But ESCO, right?
They kind of overlap, yes, during ESCO.
So we're doing, well, you're gonna start with the Eisenhower addition renovation.
Okay,
We live? The recording?
ready to go?
I am.
I think we are, yes.
How's Eisenhower going? Welcome back.
Thank you. I'll get up here and get to the drawing. So what we got a lot going on at Eisenhower. Area A, all the steel's done. The structure's done for the prefab building. It's all been inspected. It's good to go. So they're starting to put in ductwork in this area. They've put in water lines, rain leaders. There's a hallway here.
On the steel, have they put the purlins on yet?
Yeah, everything, yeah, it's all.
Okay, so they're ready to start shooting?
Yeah, but they're not starting that yet. They're not there yet, but yes, they're prepared to do that.
Okay.
Do you mean the roof and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
the roof purlin.
Yeah, they gotta get, I think the roof's sitting there. It's setting off to it's over in this area here, but there's some safety issues they're working through before, because that'll be your next high-risk area with regards to safety. They're gonna be up in the air pretty high there, and they're trying to work through some safety things. And I believe they have that under control. I'll know more when I talk to Chris about that. I think I talked to him last week. He said it was a work in progress and they had a pretty good plan. So what they're doing now, they've roughed in the toilets. They're putting the water lines in. There's rain leaders for all this piping or for all these roofs in here. They've got that all in. I think there's going to be a change. There was an exposed line that went through here. They're going to remove that, and it went over here and drained out. And there's a drain here that goes over this corner of the building or this corner of the property. I believe that's going to be capped here, and they're going to remove this line so it's not exposed, because you can see it. It's in the gym. And I believe they're going to dump it out here and put some riprap out here and let it drain into
What's the drain?
the roof drains for this area here. There's a stream right here, and I believe that's where it's going to wind up. Otherwise, because you're going to see the pipe, I just heard that was the fix today. That's what they just told me. So that's this area. There's also,
I'm sorry, they're gonna drain it directly into the creek? Is that permitted? We don't have to gather it?
what these are doing, this is all being gathered right here, goes into a drain that comes out right here, goes down to another manhole, or yeah.
Basin.
It goes into this is all underground here, and it eventually winds up in a creek anyhow. I think the pipe goes across the road, and there's that stream where I call it McQuarrie Specialty Tire is. It winds up in that creek anyhow. So instead of taking all of this and running it down here and then running it into the stream below, you know where that retention pond is? It comes out below that retention pond. They're just gonna run it in above it. This area.
And we're gonna get a credit for 300 foot of underground piping.
Oh, no, they still need it. No, it's still needed for the other areas. They're just not gonna take this part here because of this line. I think it's a 6-inch line that runs through here. They're trying to get it out of there, so it's an eyesore.
Yeah, no, I think it requires those lines need to be hidden.
Yeah,
I don't think they can be exposed up
Yeah.
above ground.
so, they try to hide them, but there's nowhere to hide it here. That's the problem. They'd have to box it in or something like that, so my understanding is it's gonna wind up here.
I'd check with the code enforcement, because I don't want to have another change order.
For dumping, I'll see the inspector should be there tomorrow. John, I'll ask him to make sure.
Yeah.
But they have.
I'd get it in writing too.
Yeah. So I'll find out, I'll ask John about that. Let me write that down.
Well,
I don't-
John's one.
John Witherite's the,
I understand.
oh, sorry.
But also dumping it into the creek.
it's gonna dump into some riprap right in here. Or where was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, right in here, I think it's gonna dump. And then drain into the stream. So.
Okay, that's not gonna be in the playground area.
No, the playground's over in here. And there's
That's
a,
what you need is rip with rug.
and there's a fence. I would say there's a fence comes across to here. And while I was gone, while I was on vacation, they cut a lot of the trees down that were overhanging into the new addition and stuff. So that's all done. This hallway here, you guys authorized a change order for this to be, these two walls to be torn down, and they're gonna reconstruct a new wall. So they were working on that today. They were also working on the sheeting and the metal framing around area A is what was going on in this area today. This area here, they were working on fire alarm, conduit down in this area here and down here. That's all that really was going on in A. There's a lot of drywall down here. The windows are in both sides. There are some questions on there's some questions on some of these windows here. Glass Erectors is going to be, my understanding, Glass Erectors is your contractor that is handling that. They need to get with the architect. They're going to be at the job meeting tomorrow is what I was told by the general contractor today. So they'll try to work out some of the questions they have. This area here, there was more ductwork going in here. They were pulling wire throughout the building. This is one of the areas they were pulling wire to. Running some more fire alarm conduit in through here. They were running all your wiring for your lights down through this corridor today. This area here, the steam room, they're putting in drywall. All this drywall is all done in this area. They're starting to put these larger rooms. They're starting to put the drywall in those larger rooms. Let's see. The roofing is done all the way here. I'm sorry, D, C, around this new addition, and they've begun. Now it's not 100% done, probably 90, because they got to work on the parapets. Okay, so the parapets all have to be done. They've changed the roofing; it's been replaced. And they just started area B. They're going to be working this way towards A. So that's what the status of the roofing is. Sprinkler fitters were there today because we're getting the guys to start taping the drywall. This area D, which is down here, it's mostly all done. The sprinkler fitters were working in this west wing here, D west, and they're probably going to go there tomorrow, D south, to make sure they got all their sprinkler lines in. We have some interference issues in here. We were dealing with that today. They're going to move some stuff so the sheet metal guys can get their duct work in. Just minor stuff, nothing major. They were working on that. The generator pad, which is outside, where am I? Yep, the generator pad is sitting out in here. It's already prefab, or they're going to pour that Wednesday. The vault, the water meter vault is, they got the door on site. They got the door on site and they're fabbing up. They're making a form to set it on top of the vault. So that'll be ready to go Wednesday. So they're going to pour two things, that and the form for the door on that water meter vault Wednesday.
The door's a traffic following door,
Yeah, it's actually aluminum too.
but it's traffic following.
Yes, it is. I don't think there's anything else that I could tell you. That is about it. Oh, we had basic fun fact. Your OSIP program is well valued. I don't know who decided that, but that program has been very good for this project. You have one set of standards for safety. You don't have like one contractor doing one thing, another contractor doing another. The OSIP program has been great. I've had help with Jared and the safety guy. His name is Chris Geltz. They've been very helpful with the safety program when I've needed it. What happens, it kind of cascades down to me when the safety guy isn't there. I keep on the guys, hey, where's your hard hat? Just keep it on them and they know I come around and they know that there's somebody there watching the safety. It's a good program. That being said, I think I put in my notes, well, I know I did. We had a random OSHA inspection. They do come to Specialty Tire frequently. My understanding is that anyhow. We've seen them drive by, but they've never stopped. Well, I think it was on the 9th. I forget. It's in my report, whatever day. It was one day, a couple weeks ago. OSHA stopped by. They drove around outside for about a half hour, 45 minutes, looking at everybody, watching the guys work on the roof. The guys were out here working on the exterior of the building, putting on metal studs and plywood sheeting. Then they came in, talked to the general contractor, interviewed guys, and anyhow, there were no citations issued. They were happy with the safety of the site. So that your OSIP program does work, and continued coaching with the guys. And, so my compliments, that's a good thing for these jobs. So I had Cheney working for me while I was gone. I think he did a good job, kind of filling my shoes. He did a good job. It was a nice transition. He was familiar with with all you guys, with the district and everything. So that made my job easy, and I think you got an excellent quality job from him while I was gone. So I know there were some questions with the doors, but I think that's all taken care of with security doors and stuff, but I think that was overcome. So, like I said, the next major thing we're going to be doing is the roofing and stuff here, especially on this gym roof. That's going to be your next the big safety challenge. So, does any questions, anything I can try to answer for you or get you an answer on if I don't know?
Any change orders coming up?
None that I know of. Nothing that I'm aware of at
I'm
this
only
point.
asking if you know of any.
I don't know of any off the top of my head. I think you guys have seen the ones I know of. So, is that all?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll check on the rain leaders if we're allowed to dump it out in there, and I'll get back with you.
Change orders, so we asked that question. We have the total hasn't changed from the board meeting. What was that?
No, it hasn't. There's the updated sheet as part of your packet, and it's also attached there, but as of right now, we have no change orders. All change orders have been approved that we have, so.
Okay. So moving to ESCO then?
Well,
Thank you.
are you gonna do it? Or do it? I was curious.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I was curious on this ESCO project. Did you all come to any conclusion at the last meeting whether you wanted to go for the route or not, or which one? There's two options. Jared, I don't know if you thought about that at all.
We did not come to a conclusion the last time.
There's the,
Presentation and the entire project, the ESCO project, is attached. I have a copy of it in front of you as part of the packet. And then there is also information on financing options that the board wanted to take a look at. The two options that we have are fully financing the project, borrowing the $5.4 million.
Site visit.
Yes.
Did you want to do that? Do you want? I'm kind of out of order here.
No, that's okay, Larry. We had talked about at the last board meeting about having the board, we would open up Eisenhower at some point after construction for the day is over. That way we're not getting in the way of anybody, but if you want to send me some dates that you.
The other purpose would be a Friday because they tend to be less busy than the rest of the week.
I tend to clean up a little bit.
And they're, when do they knock off on a Friday? 3 o'clock?
3:30 is when they're done. Usually.
So if we say 4 o'clock on a Friday, that would be ideal for the job.
Well, we can, if you tell me if you want to do it during the week too, I'll let them know. It don't matter. It's what you guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's whatever you guys would want.
Yeah.
Whatever works best for you guys,
Yeah.
just give me a heads up on what day you'd like to come
Okay,
or what evening.
But I'm recommending a 4 o'clock Friday for the board to go.
what Friday do you think?
Any Friday you'd like. This Friday a week from now.
I think we ought to do it before the end of the month, before there's more confusion over there. Well, when's school start?
Thursday.
Friday, this Friday?
It's first football game, right? We could go to walk around Eisenhower and go to the game.
Okay, so 4 o'clock.
Why don't you put out a email to the board?
This Friday at 4 o'clock.
This Friday, 4 o'clock.
Does that work for you, Larry?
I'll make it work. I'm a guest here, so. You let me know I'll give the guys a notice that could be this Friday.
Yeah.
Make sure they clean up. They usually clean up Fridays anyhow. If not, they do a good job of cleaning up anyhow. All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, But back to the ESCO.
So we have 4 scenarios. 14-year wrap, 20 years level, 14-year wrap, and 20 years level settlement. I don't know how I missed this second one. Anyway, do you have any preferences on this?
Our financial advisor, who we work with, who creates these scenarios, and myself are more in favor of scenario 1, which is financing the entire project and keeping the cash that we have on hand with us now, especially with the interest earnings that we are currently earning off of that.
So you're saying the wrap at 14 years
Yes, ma'am.
puts us up to 56 million, about 365.
And I do want to point out, I know the savings that is listed in column 6 for scenario 1, as well as column 9 for scenario 2, and so on. Even though it shows that it ends in 6/30 of 2034, the reason why it shows that the savings ends there is that's when our contract with Constellation ends. And they are not projecting savings out past that because their contract is over. They would argue, and I agree with them, that the savings from the electricity and all that continues beyond those years. They just show it to them because that is the end of their 20-year guaranteed contract with us.
Well, yeah, I can see that.
So assuming we're 230 savings, it was pushing on out through the next 5 years, that's $1.15 million in additional savings.
So did you talk to her at all about how firm and fast she is on if the Fed lowers rates in September? I mean, now they're talking 0.5 point. I don't know.
When they put these together, she's saying that they take that into account. Those
So-
possibilities. I mean, these are truly just a projection, their best
Right.
guess.
So I forget her timeline. I have it here. She's saying, when would we go out to, if we were to approve scenario 1 next week at the board meeting? She had a little, she had a little thing where she put down what goes
Yeah, she-
after what, and she had some dates
In
on
that
it.
packet you have there now.
Yeah, I don't know where I put it. Expectance, do you have that somewhere handy?
She is,
It's got like little blocks, here it is, next steps. So Constellation submits an IGA, Building and Grounds Committee reviews it, school board approves, complete. But she doesn't have any dates on that, so could you fill in any dates? Because this is a Constellation document.
or the original timeline she had was going out to adopting the parameters a week ago.
This is it?
Is that the updated one?
No, it's not the updated one. This is the first one.
Was August 12th. So if we push it back 2 weeks, she would have competitive internet auction, probably the beginning of September, with settlement right around the beginning of October.
Okay. The Fed's supposed to, usually meets like on the week of the 16th, something like that. So, as you know, I'm not for spending down any of our cash. I think that's crazy in this environment.
Her concern
We're
about
making
spending
too
down
much
too
money.
much of our cash is not having that cash, which when you are looking to borrow money and you get your bond rating, the amount of cash you have on is a big factor in that. And if you spend down too much cash, it can ultimately hurt your bond rating.
Well, it definitely buttresses the balance sheet. My concern is that we're making a good bit of, right now, cash is great. As I said, I think at the last meeting, with a big enough deposit, private bankers are giving you 6.2% on it. So you can't,
And most of our accounts were earning over 5%.
pretty nice, especially when, okay. All right, I'm for scenario 1 if you are. I'm not real hung up either way on 1 or 2, but I think if everybody's okay with the priorities, I'd like to hear from the committee. We have Doug here and who else is on?
Well, I know I emailed Jared just about, I'm thinking we've had parents, I know I've been 4 different parents contact me in the last week. I know one sent about the air conditioning in the high school gyms. That a young lady passed out during their volleyball camp. And I think that's something we need to look at the health and safety of our student athletes as well. And I said to Jared about seeing even getting if we take a bond issue out of a couple more million to get these fixed and not wait to do that. So, because
And
the
do
other,
a wrap.
I'll do a wrap, but I mean, do more than the 5.4 million to do a couple of these other things that need done. If we see how much it would be to put air conditioning in. I know the track, they fixed those holes. There were holes in the track and they gave us 1 or 2 more years of useful life. So after this track season, that's probably 300 and some thousand, close to 300,000. So
Yeah, all I would say is we have some work to do on those ends as far as what's that's gonna cost us, both of those projects.
and I even know right
They
now,
don't qualify for ESCO, right?
No, they wouldn't qualify for the ESCO, but I think he's talking about wrapping the
Just-
bond into.
just wrapping a bond. I mean, if you're going to a bond issue at 5.4 million, look at some of those things and see what the price would be and wrap it into this.
Well, give us an idea of a price so you can run a scenario.
I told him to add 3 million. What did I say? 8.4.
Yeah, I emailed Jimmy Dole first thing this morning to have her put that scenario together.
And then you'll let us know.
Yep, I can send it
So
out.
you can send out to the board the various numbers, because we still have it on the agenda for next week. Is that correct?
We can place it. There's nothing on the agenda right now unless the committee recommends that. Putting something on there.
I thought we had discussed it the last board meeting. Well, I don't know.
It was on the last board meeting, but it was tabled because the
Yeah.
the board wasn't ready to make a decision.
We either make a decision to do it next board meeting or we don't do it at all.
I mean, I think daylights are wasted on this, but
Yeah.
I,
Well, and
if the
Jamie-
numbers come in okay on more
And Jamie
stuff.
said
that's-
she doesn't want to bring this issue to the bond market during the presidential election. And she would recommend then that we delay until January, which means that none of this work gets done this summer. So we either do it now or we just put it off to 2026.
Well, that's the gamble.
Yeah, and I think that everyone agrees, this committee's been talking about those priorities on our capital reserve, our capital projects list for a long time. So a lot of the things that this ESCO project addresses are those top priorities for our capital reserve and our capital projects. So, it seems like the committee has been positive about the work needs done. It's just a question of how do you want to pay for it? To Mr. Steve's point, I agree that the air conditioning is probably something we need to add. I think that's, I'd like to have air conditioning in all our schools, to be honest with you, because we're starting school next week when it's going to be 86 degrees.
89 now.
Yeah, maybe 90. So it's going to be a struggle, but obviously that's not going to save us energy costs. That's going to cost us.
No, I know with the ESCO problem, just if we're going out to bond issue,
I don't disagree with Mr. Steve on extending it. We have a roof at the junior high. We have work that we need to do at Ben Franklin. I'm not convinced that the 92-degree weather this summer is unusual that we had last week. And I don't know if I want to spend $1 million fixing that problem when we have other problems. But advancing this farther and having that discussion down the line, I'm certainly in favor of that.
and I told Jared part of it too, is like I know tonight, the football team can't even get on their own football field because there's too many activities. So, I think we, as a board, should look at putting turf on that soccer field so all the teams, you can use it till dark, beyond dark with the lights.
Well, that's a new one. Wait a minute. Don't light that turf away.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to add too many more millions. I'm not opposed to some projects, but that's a whole new ballgame there. I don't.
That's why I said if we're going out for bond issue, look at some of these things that,
Well, you might want to wait in that till after the election, because to see what happens if rates are hacked by 0.5 point. I don't know that's the gamble. Is the Fed going to actually do that big of a rate cut
that's why I've been
at
here.
the start of the election? They're saying they are, but nobody knows. Everybody thinks they know.
But Jamie said, she clearly said that the market's already taken that into account. And we're unlikely to see the bond ratings, the bond interest rate go down in any significant way.
Yeah, she's probably right about that.
So-
So if you get an answer back, Terry Kerr's on. Terry, are you on?
Yeah, he's there.
Who else?
I am. I'm trying to find. I'm here. I just got on 10 minutes ago, so I really don't have enough information to make a comment.
Well, we've been talking about it for less than 10 minutes, so you
Yeah.
can, no, we're talking about doing an ESCO project with all the, have you seen the exhibits?
I did.
Yeah, do you have any problem with the list?
No, the list, like the superintendent just mentioned, Rob, just, they've been on that list for a long time.
So this gives us a nice opportunity, decent rates with some savings. Basically, you could argue, put those savings out for 20 years, which would probably amount to a half a point anyway. I don't know, I haven't run that number in my head, but the million over whatever is pretty decent. Maybe a 3/4 of a point. Okay, anybody else want to make a comment? Tom, go
Well,
ahead.
if we're gonna bring a motion to the board on the next board meeting, we need to arrive at a number and have it all.
Yeah, we can't.
As far to Mr. Steve's point though, is that something we can talk about if we're gonna be talking about science rooms and family consumer science rooms? Is something, those gymnasiums, something we can roll into that if we get an architect to.
I mean, there's
make
definitely
recommendations?
savings to do if you're going to borrow that kind of money, there's definitely savings to do it all at one time. But you can do it separately if you need to.
Right.
So do you want to do the ESCO project as one and then get a plan for the other things? Later
That
on.
would be my preference. I think what Doug's saying makes sense. I'm not opposed to it. I just think that we're all comfortable with these numbers right now. And next week, let's try to get this on the books. I think that's my feeling about it.
Now, I'm also comfortable with doing some of the academic work out of the capital funds. The other thing that this allows us to do is, in my opinion, not put money into the capital fund this year and maybe next year. Because these major programs are taken care of. We're doing maintenance stuff. We have $3 million there. We can replace the carpeting out of that budget and not put $250 in like we normally do.
Well, that's a thought. Boy, that's I like it.
And we
But,
can make that decision later on.
yeah, we don't have to. We don't have to make that until October.
Yeah. But that's also a savings, being that the major pieces of that we've been trying to build for the last, and Terry's right, decade, that we've been trying to fix, we can get done, knock those off. And then we still.
Why?
I think we
still-
should reserve
and we still
something,
have
Tom.
the
It's the
capital.
discipline of doing it. You get out of that habit and then everybody forgets about it.
I'm just, I'm saying that we wouldn't need to do that. We could opt out of that if we wanted to do that.
Now, Jared, originally they said, how long would it take for it to pay for itself? For the ESCO project?
Depends how you look at it, if I understand correctly. They're saying 12 years, but that's because they're extending their contract, right? And I think that the actual savings of the bond, if you borrow $5.3 million, is closer to.
Oh, that's
But
right.
that's, I mean, just looking,
1.8.
It's on scenario one, Doug, they're showing 15 years.
15 years for
I think
what?
that's conservative. Quite good.
I mean, they're showing a savings of 1.823 million.
And that's what PFM is showing in the contract. Constellation's guaranteed energy savings ends in 2034. Now, Constellation, and I agree with them, would argue that that savings doesn't end. You still have that equipment, you still have the lighting. The savings is still there for those years out, but they are only showing it going through there because that is when Constellation, who's guaranteeing those savings, ends their contract.
But it's showing 1.8 million. That's far over what's shown there. Where on the Constellations things is it showing that the savings would be on? Is that page 8?
You made up this document.
The spread, yeah,
There's page 9 shows.
page 9.
Well, they're not passionate.
So they're showing after 20 years.
I mean, I think 20 is the better number.
Well, that's the years of their contract. So that year 20 is at 2034 when their contract ends.
But that's including the previous project.
That's including the previous project, which
So
Which they're
So
allowed.
we are looking at 30 years probably, because an additional, if we're just looking at this project, that's what I want to see. This project by itself, how long before it gets paid off? It's shown 2034 here, but that includes the previous ESCO. So they're using 10 years of that ESCO project, and they're using the first 10 years of this one. What would it be just with this ESCO project?
I mean, you could take that phase 2 savings and project it out a number of years.
So it's going to be, that would be another,
20 years.
so it's going to be 30 total years.
No,
No, I
No.
don't see it.
they're showing 2026, $254,000 in savings. And then they're taking that to 34, 322, for total savings in the first 10 years of 2.5 million.
What page is that?
I'm on
Nine.
page
Page
9. It's the phase 2 savings. That's only the phase 2 savings. So in 10 years, you have 2.5 million
Waiting.
in savings.
20, right.
So 20 years
That's-
total,
yes,
phase
20.
2 only.
That's,
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
Yeah,
20
phase
years is the
2
best number.
only is around 20 years.
If we ignore the
if
first
you, if
phase.
you double that, okay, but that's doubling at a flat rate.
Sure,
And-
fair,
And,
yeah.
and you can see that they're planning increases every year of some kind, but 20 is the outside number. Okay, 15 is probably the inside number.
Jim, what do you think?
It's the rock in the hard place. We have all these things that need to be done, and if we don't act at some point, it's going to be an emergency catastrophic level, and they simply need to be done. The need to be done stuff, and that's why we created that matrix, is what we really need to be focusing on. What we're getting rid of 6 of the top 10, or I don't have that list in front of me.
We were denting it pretty
Yeah,
good.
I mean, all the big ones, and they're all big
Big
ticket
numbers.
things. Some of the ones that weren't emergencies, like the stage lighting and stuff, they need to be done, but that's a luxury to have that program to be offered to the students. But right now, it's
Oh,
almost
yeah,
non-functional.
Yeah,
And-
it's a luxury until it's non-functional.
Well, no, I get it, but that's what I mean. It's not the heat of the building. It's not the roof of the junior high. It's not the things that are going to close a building. But they're super expensive, and it's nice to be able to incorporate them into this
And,
program.
and right now, when we know, we don't know, but is that? I wondered
It's
what
me.
that was. I thought it was like a little alarm going off. When we kind of, we just had a pretty good report on Eisenhower, so we're in pretty good shape on that. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, yeah. So we're kind of a good place to do it. I mean, I think it's unlikely we can get numbers together for the air conditioning by next week, and I really do think we need to, because she's given us this timeline.
And
So
that's the other thing I was going to say. While I share that definitely needs to be done, rolling it in this late hour, I think we're sitting on this waiting, and we're going to end up waiting too long, and paralysis by analysis. We're not going to have anything done. So next summer, none of the work's going to get started, and it's just another year where more things are going to break, more things are going to fail. It's not wrong. It needs done. I've been in that gym myself, and the track is another issue. That's a huge looming issue. We bought breadcrumbs, to try to stretch that thing along. We're not going to offer a track team. What are we going to do? And so we need to address those, but it's not, I don't think it's super appropriate to borrow it into this, because we just simply don't have time. We want to get it done. We want to get these people under contract. We want to have stuff on order, so when summer comes around, it's ready to go, right?
But we could direct the committee to start, or.
I don't think it's wrong to
but
have them
start the
invest,
process of
get-
of figuring out.
Yeah.
I think Jamie Doyle and Empire Bond Council would have some concerns about borrowing money for projects that we don't have good estimates on, that the board is not committed to
Exactly.
continuing with,
That's-
because they don't, when you go out for borrowing, you should, at best possible, have a project almost in paper ready to go.
And
So we don't borrow money for a project that never happens.
But I will say that borrowing the 5.3 under option 1 And borrowing that money and not spending our cash gives us more flexibility to address things like the track and things down the road, like that will come up. So
That still need done. We
they still need
can't-
done.
yeah.
So I think if you check this box and you knock off a lot of those top priorities, and we get it at a time where borrowing money is about as good as it gets, and we don't put it down in our cash, so we don't threaten our own bond rating, because like Dr. Schaefer said, these things need done. It's just a question of how do we pay for them? Do we pay for them with cash, little by little, and have a negative effect to our bond rating? Do we put them all under this umbrella and try to pay for them all at once while money is cheap? I think that's really cheaper. That's really what we have to decide here, because we're going to pay for them one way or the other.
Does the rates get better if you do a little more? Is there like break points with bond issues? Like at one time, wasn't it like you're better to do a $10 million than an $8 million because of the
You're better
rates
to
and
keep
the
it
cost?
under $10 million.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, it's
seeing
under,
before.
okay,
Yeah.
it's under, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I didn't know, Sue, I'm sorry, Sue
That's why
Reed's
we
here.
borrowed in a couple goes for I, yeah, because it changed dramatically over 10.
Well, we couldn't have even done.
But that's what I mean too. I mean, if you're looking at other things, so you can't borrow if you know that you want to do something and you have a ballpark figure, they want it.
I don't think it's impossible. I can tell you, in the times we've done borrowings throughout my history here, it is better you basically have to name the project that you're borrowing for.
And have it mapped out.
Because
And have it ready to go, because you basically set a time clock when you borrow that the IRS wants you to have those funds spent. So unless we have a definite project and here's the price tags, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I can tell you Chris Brewer, our bond counsel, and Jamie Doyle will probably have some concerns about it.
I think Chris Brewer would,
Well, that
I know
money,
Chris Brewer would.
he would.
when we took the money out for that elementary project, it sat for 2-3 years before it was spent.
And they had major concerns over that. And I was getting calls all the time about having money borrowed that we were not using.
But what's the thing about doing more than one bond issue in a calendar year?
It's better to stay under that $10 million. And we're kind of nearing the end of a calendar year now. So
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's why, is it worth going up to close to the limit, knowing we have to do other things, trying to get some prices, maybe not until September 9th meeting. But then if you have to do, the science rooms and all this and that goes over, then as you start the new calendar year, you have the opportunity to do another one.
we have no board consensus on science rooms or anything else right now. So
No, but that would be like if you could get some prices for like what would air conditioning or what the track and some of those other things and be able to add to this one and get closer to that.
Well, we
whatever
could
amount to
assign
stay
the
on.
committee to do that. That's what I'm saying. I think, Tom, you probably didn't seem to have an objection that we
Well,
bring it forward.
you can certainly bring it forward, but we also need to look at the whole district. And so, again, we're ignoring any work of Ben Franklin in order to provide air conditioning at the high school.
Ben Franklin could have been done.
I didn't hear from Sue Regan. I'm sorry, Sue. I didn't know you were on. I think she's the only other board member on the telephone, correct?
Yes, I'm here. Julia, thank you.
Sure, I'm sorry. I was looking at Terry Kerr. I didn't even look up. Sorry. Do you have any, are you okay if we were to go ahead next week with the RAP number 1 scenario? I don't know if you have that in front of you, but.
I do have it in front of me, and yes, I am okay with that. But I do agree that we can't wait much longer to do the things that we need to have done for the different buildings. I feel like since I've been on the board, we just keep putting Band-Aids on things, and buildings are getting progressively worse. So I really think we need to think about doing it sooner rather than later instead of keep pushing these projects down the line. And I do worry about the gym, especially the complaints that we're getting and the health of our students. I think we really need to make sure that it's a safe space for them.
So you would favor the committee moving forward with an investigation of that? to get the-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And the science rooms and the FCSC were all the things that we need to make things better for our schools.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else have a comment? Anybody? So I think that means we'd like,
Can I make a question, or an observation or whatever? Is the board committed to taking the savings, and we're talking basically switching out a utility cost for a bond payment?
not entirely, they're not equal.
So there's a chance that you would raise taxes to fund these?
I don't think that's on the table. I'm not following your question, no, I'm sorry.
Because there's going to be a savings by committing to these projects, which I totally agree they need done. No doubt, they will make the district much better. But my concern is, you've already indicated, you've already raised taxes 2 years in a row. You've already said you're probably raising taxes next year. And you have this savings on paper, and you have this cost, that you're trading one cost for another cost. You're trading, utility bills are gonna go down, but your bond payments are going to go up. So is the board committed to taking that savings to cover that bond cost?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it seems like an obvious thing, but,
No, the
I
only
mean,
other-
I don't conceptualize it the way you
Yeah,
do.
the
I don't
only-
see it as a trade.
The only other choice we have to do this work is to do it with tax money.
it's all tax money. Everything you gain here is tax money.
No,
But-
borrowed
but-
money
no,
is, borrowed money is not, it's a
Divert-
taxpayer obligation.
Diverting the money from the gas company to a bond company is different than raising $5.4 million in cash, and doing this work without, and still have the utilities cost. So we're taking $1 from the gas company and giving it to the bond company.
Yes,
And so,
on paper, that's what it looks like.
and that's the way it is in reality. That's what makes this program fathomable. And so we can knock down 6 or 7 of these high impact items and big numbers and get them off our backs and not kick them down the road for the next board and the next board after that.
Some of
That's
those
the-
things won't make it to the next.
Yeah, I don't think,
And-
that's the magic of the bond market. The
Yeah.
bond market works a little differently. They
but
don't
we've
see
I
it.
understand the bond market,
One
I
one.
get it.
We've
I'm
always
not questioning that.
kicked the control system for East Pike for the last 20 years down the line.
Well-
Okay, and this gets it off our back. It gets a digital system that you can control, and we have some chance of making it work.
Okay, so the point,
And the thing is too, is with the debt, we're not really increasing debt much, you're just extending
we're
it,
wrapping it, yeah.
the wrap.
So-
No, there's actually, you are increasing it,
I mean,
but it's, they
very,
show it on the paper as being offset to some degree by the savings.
That's one of the factors only. That's one factor, that's right here, but that's only one factor. We're also in a relatively positive interest rate environment, and our cash is making, it's an arbitrage. So the cash is making an awful lot more. So I don't, unless you want to belabor our debt, I mean, we can talk for a few more minutes, but we said an hour, so. So one more question, if you want to ask another question.
It's not particularly a question, it's an observation of you're taking savings. And I see where they continue to make those savings higher every year, but basically it's the first year, you reduce your utility costs. You don't get any more money the next year, you just don't have that utility cost.
No one's
But-
giving you money.
Yeah, but instead you have debt service.
Right.
Yes, and.
But we are, but the second year, we also are saving the utility costs.
Only from, there's
No.
no new cash.
There's no,
This district can't fund itself just on taxpayer contributions through taxes. It can't be done.
On
That's premise
capital-
number one.
capital
So-
projects, I
So
understand that,
anyway,
I totally
okay,
get that.
so
I thought about that comment because you made it the last time too, and I think I think about it a little differently. Let's say we don't do that, and you have, let's make it concrete numbers. We're paying $20 that we could have been saving. We're paying that to the utility company. So every year, that's $20. That's real money. That's $20, and that does add up. So the negative also has to be true. If we save $20 every year, that $20 adds up every year because we're not paying it to the utility
The next
company.
year and the
Yeah.
next year.
So even though you're right, there nobody's giving us cash, that savings is realized every year that we do this program. So when you said that, it really made me think, and I kept mulling it over in my head. And I'm like, I think about it differently because it is realized savings, and every year that the utility bills would go up, that's something that we would still have to pay every year. So if we're able to reduce that cost, that is money in our pocket that we don't have to spend. We don't do this, we will. Is that,
It's on the
Right, but
expense
if
side
you
of the
take the
balance
debt
sheet.
service out, now
we have that
You
cost,
created another
yes. And that's
cost.
why we're, taking that money from here and now we're paying it
Paying
to
it
the
in
debt
debt
service.
service.
That is true.
Good.
And we have eliminated the maintenance cost of replacing all the other stuff that we would normally have to pay out of our own pockets. We're doing it through this program. So I think it's an overall win on things that definitely need to happen to, keep the place open, right?
Correct. I
Yeah.
totally agree with all the projects. I'm just concerned that that money is gonna get, and I'm looking at a budget,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm not looking next year or the year before, I'm looking at a one-year budget. Reduce your utility costs, you're good. If you
Right.
take that money and hire staff with it or do something, you still got that debt service payment.
Right.
And my
Right,
concern
right.
is
So
you're not gonna,
Yeah. No, I think this, the way that it's,
Yeah.
this, the way that it's been presented and conceptualized is trying to make it as self-sustained as possible.
Good.
So then any other change that we make, we hire new staff, then that's on us.
That's
That's
a
an
separate
increase to
thing.
the budget, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. I think then we'll ask Jared if you put the motion on if we have that motion put on the agenda next week. The committee will recommend it unanimously
What's that?
for the ESCO vote next week.
I definitely recommend it, and I would also, support, investigating, getting quotes, for these other issues. I think the air conditioning in the gym is a high priority thing. I don't know if that's on our matrix yet, but it needs to be added.
It is not on the main.
Yeah, it needs to be added and evaluated because that's been a complaint that I've heard, since I've been on here, going
I-
3 years.
I will say that the reason it's not there is because the electrical system in the high school needs to be upgraded. And so it's an air conditioning system,
Complicated.
but we have to get a bigger transformer, a bigger service.
I think you're right there, Live. I too support getting it on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
list and looking at it.
It needs to be investigated, put on that matrix and,
Oh,
then-
and evaluated against the other projects.
because it's.
But this one deals with the health and safety of our students. I
It
think
does.
that should be,
It
that
does,
should be
but
the
that's
overall
part of-
matrix.
That's part of the matrix.
Yeah.
But that's why it needs to be on there. That way we can have
But we're
a
also,
concrete discussion
we
about
also
it.
will have a full-size gym that will have air conditioning guys in it.
Full-size gym,
PAAA.
94 feet long.
No, it's
Smallest
the
version.
smallest
That was
PAAA.
1,000 times. We talked about that 1,000 times. All right, Michelle, can you start up on your agenda now?
What do we know about Ben Franklin?
Wait a minute, where are you?
Okay, Ben Franklin, East Pike Kitchen, what do you know about that?
What we have been having some conversations about is as our demographics change in the district, East Pike and Ben Franklin, historically at the lower grades, have the highest free and reduced rates. What those two schools now qualify for is a CEP program, which is Community Eligibility Provision or Program, that would allow us to offer free breakfast and lunch to all kids in those buildings. Our concern about doing that is the lack of storage for food at both of those buildings. We're basically running on a very old cooler at Ben Franklin. We have really just stand-up coolers and freezers here at East Pike. So we have basically just things everywhere storing a very limited amount of food. We basically only store about a day's worth of food at both of those buildings. Our food service director's main concern if we would move in that direction, which I think it's a good direction for the district to move, especially with our free and reduced population increasing, is that she would like more storage, both a walk-in freezer and a cooler.
How many days would they be looking to ultimately store?
Possibly 2 or 3 days worth of food. She could also store food for longer periods of time. Right now, we have a food service driver who everything is delivered at the high school, travels to each of those buildings every single day and drops off food, which has been, as you pointed out last week, Mr. Harley, that it has been a position that we very much struggle to fill and keep filling. This would alleviate some of that work in that the food could be dropped off, 1 day a week and almost a whole week's worth of food could be kept. So it would help that position, help with the workload of that position. What we would like to do, and I been having some preliminary conversations with PDE because we do have a significant balance in our food service account, which we are going to spend part of that down, paying for the Eisenhower kitchen equipment. But we still have a pretty nice balance in there that we've been gaining over the past couple of years. And every year PDE, questions it because we're not meant to have a balance the way that we have, is using the funds to pay for the entire project. So it wouldn't be a general fund cost. It hopefully would not have to be any type of borrowing. It would just strictly be coming from our food service program to pay for this. What we would like to do is look at adding a freezer, a walk-in freezer and cooler, both of those schools somewhere back behind the kitchen. Should not take any space from any usable space within the building or around the building.
Would they be outside?
They could be, both schools at East Pike here, right outside the kitchen, we have that overhang that we would be looking at possibly. We had a kitchen consultant who had worked on Eisenhower come up and just kind of walk through it with us a little bit. We still probably, because of some of the structural things, would need to get an architect involved. He did not want to get involved in that side of it. But we have that space here. And we also have Ben Franklin right behind their kitchen. As you pull up there behind the dumpster, there's an overhang space and some space there that you could put in walk-in freezer and cooler as well. So what we are looking for from the board is approval to continue to investigate that, possibly engage an architect to get a quote for what it would take from them to be part of the project and hopefully eventually put out that project to bid. Again, it is leading to the possibility of taking those two schools and making them free breakfast and free lunch, which ultimately probably increases participation, which would lead to more food having to be stored at those buildings, which right now, if you have been at East Pike, we have freezers and coolers lining the hallway because we have no space within the kitchen. It would free up, allow for more prep space in each of those kitchens because we wouldn't have those freezers and coolers.
You can get rid of all the little coolers and freezers.
Yes, that we have in both those kitchens. So
What is the ballpark number in the kitchen fund that we're gonna have left over? Like ballpark?
after Eisenhower, we will probably have $500,000-$600,000 remaining.
We're in an odd position because we're accumulating money, but we're charging as little as we're legally allowed to charge for the meals.
Yes, we.
Yeah, USDA sets a floor, so we could charge less if they'd let us, but they're not letting us, so we keep accumulating this money.
Yes, as long as we are trying to keep up with the rate that they would like us to charge, we are okay, but we are below the rate that they would like us to see us charge for a paid meal.
We're below.
We are below it, yes.
So the federal government wants us to charge more, and the PDE wants us to get rid of the balance. So this is kind of a no-brainer.
And we've seen, to food service credit, we have seen significant increases in our participation, which helps out the fund. And Mrs. Sherry runs a very tight ship as far as managing her people. And,
And the food qualities has been maintained.
yes, and free breakfast has helped. Breakfast participation, that has been free for the last couple of years. I do think during COVID, when all meals were free, that just kind of got kids and parents in the routine of eating in the cafeteria. So that has continued as well. But we have seen increased numbers in our participation as well.
Can you decrease cost of cookies and ice cream and all that? Because that's too many on my account.
We could.
My one son thinks he can buy stuff for his friends.
The old tapes. Yeah, I got one of those too.
He's not popular.
Very, very,
He's a
very
big
nice
spender
guy.
with my money.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay, I certainly don't have any objection to.
I have no objection to looking into it. It would be nice if it is all encompassed in that $500,000-$600,000 range. If
Oh, yeah, it
know,
would be.
keep it self-contained. That
Yeah.
sounds like definitely reasonable for what you're asking for.
These things are prefab
Yeah,
with the walls and the
Mhm.
compressor on top.
Yeah, I think the big and it's not an argument. The conversation I'm having with PD right now is that any changes we are making to the building are just impacting the kitchen cafeteria area. If it's going beyond that, which I don't feel that it is, because it's pretty much confined to those areas,
Yeah.
they wouldn't want to see food service money go towards that. But
Which is
again, the argument is that it's really only confined to
It's a
right
freezer.
in those areas. So
We're not adding a kindergarten.
no, we're not.
Damn.
So,
Okay.
but what we may do is have a motion just to allow us to engage an architect, somebody, or get proposals from architects
Yeah.
for that work.
We might have to bundle these little projects together to get somebody interested. So, but let's see what we can do, because if we can do 3 projects together, we might get somebody interested and give them enough time to do the work. That was
Yep.
one of the problems last fall. Okay. Traffic discussion at Ben Franklin. I thought the principal could solve it. How are we doing?
Well, I'll let you know on Thursday.
How many people are actually dropping their kids off? How many cars do you deal with in a day?
I can look it up for you.
Yeah, I'm afraid of
I
that.
counted last year one day, because I go by there every morning, and it's starting 20 minutes before it's time to drop off. I bet you there's 50 cars out there on the road, even more than that.
And it's worse, it backed all the way up to, what's the street over there?
Melanie Lane, it
Yeah.
even goes, sometimes it goes up, almost up to the light at Shelley.
Yeah. So here's the dilemma. It's a state highway. The state is not going to give us any money to solve our problem. That'd be like giving Lowe's money to solve their problem. Okay, if this was a new building, a new project, they require us to fix this problem as part of the basic work. The township doesn't have a dog in the hunt. It's a state highway. They control what we do on the site a little bit, but not much. And so we're kind of left to our own devices. Now, maybe there's some safety money that we can access. Maybe there's something else we can do. But we're kind of left on our own here. So I don't think any white knight's going to ride over the
And
horizon and save us.
So I did send out a transportation survey just to give us an idea as to how many families will be dropping off and picking up. We're more worried about end of day. Morning typically isn't that bad. At least that was my thought.
I think
That's what I was
so.
told, right?
Morning's
to
still
do-
bad.
What's that?
Morning's still bad, because parents are trying to get in line to drop their kids off quick. I come by there every morning from Sheets, and it's,
What,
especially in the winter time,
do you have
the
a
cars are onto
number
the highway.
of families that are dropping kids off?
Right now, we're at 65
65 in a day, 65?
cars. 65 cars.
That's a lot of cars.
So I did send out a transportation survey, again, just to get a basic idea, and that's only the people that we know that filled out
Yeah.
the survey, so that was about half our population. There could be more. And gently started explaining that you could not pull off on the side of the road. We sent another message in the back to school newsletter that you probably read already, if you got those from us. And then today, a letter went out from Rob, Mike, and myself. That was a little bit more,
less asky, more telling.
yeah, that's a great way to put
The
it.
way we described it.
Yes,
We just said, listen, you cannot block the traffic. If you block the traffic, we're going to be forced into a situation where we have to change things that have become more inconvenient. The police have already put together a traffic study that looked at this. They've said what you're doing is the safest thing for our students. So for us to make a change to go against what the police are recommending for safety puts us in a bad situation should anyone ever get hurt, when we make that change.
When you say the police, you're talking about the chief of police.
The Indiana Borough
And the
Police. did a
Indiana Borough
traffic
Police
study.
looked at it.
Yes, sir. And what they said is, look, they have no recommendation to change anything that we're doing. And their recommendation basically is, traffic gets backed up there a little bit, but it is what it is. Tell people to go around the block, which we've done. And we will continue to do. If the traffic remains a problem after we've told them, we've asked them, we've gently prodded, now we've basically said, please don't put us in a situation where we have to change the process. If they continue to do this, we're going to have to come up with some sort of process that either we move the pickup kids somewhere or we bring in, we change the dismissal time for buses and car pickup so that people can use both, which is going to be more inconvenient for the families and/or an impact on our instructional time, which is already stretched pretty thin. So that's the problem we're up against here.
The 65 cars would be about 25% of your population.
We have 418 students enrolled right now.
So,
Not quite.
so 20%.
Sure.
And I think part of the problem too is some of these kids that live out in Shalocton, they don't get home till like 4:30. Later than that, sometimes on the bus. I don't know what the last time is they get home now, but I know
Our
I've
runs are generally around, the longest run's about 50 minutes.
And so what time do they get
So
home?
that 4:30, 4:35.
and the parents say, well, they have activities at 5. By the time they get home, they have no time to eat and all that. So I think that's why a lot of the
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't begrudge the parents the effort to try to get their kids
Yeah.
to their stuff. I mean, it is a problem. But I don't know that, with the recommendation from the police that this is the safest option, should we be changing that at this point?
Yeah.
I don't know.
At some point, the state
Without
police get
exhausting.
involved.
I'm sorry, say that again?
At some point, the state police get involved and they can issue citations on this.
Well,
street.
that's kind of the argument we have. We had a meeting with PennDOT and White Township, and we talked about them putting up signs that say, please do not block traffic, you're breaking the law, and then having the state police come enforce that. It didn't seem like there was any appetite to either, one, put up signs, which you said they're not allowed, and two, the police didn't seem to have a great appetite to enforce that as well, which they basically left it with, this is an Indiana area school district problem, which, okay, let's say that that's true, but it's White Township people choosing to violate the White Township laws and not taking advantage of the busing that we provide and the options we have to block the traffic. It is our problem, but the only solution that we can come up with, other than seriously infringing on our instructional time or the safety of the kids, is to extend some sort of physical alteration to the bus lane so that we can, get all the buses in there.
there's borough kids that go to that school.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and there's Armstrong
absolutely.
kids that go to that.
I just,
too.
I'm just
No,
illustrating the
no,
point that,
No, but is there a way to utilize, once it gets to a certain point, that we use the driveway into where the parking lot is? And have 2 exit areas, because it used to be that way, that to get dropped off, you go into the regular parking lot and you go to the very far side closest to the swing sets and go up and drop your child, go around and you drop your child off, and you go down the last closest to the highway and you exit.
That area is being used by the buses.
Buses,
to
that's
drop
where
the
we use
students
buses.
off.
How many buses do you have there now? Waiting for, this would be evenings. How many buses do you have?
Was it 12, 13, 12?
Are they all at the same time?
Everidis does not.
Yeah, they're all at
fit
the same
in
time.
the loop.
So you have 12
Everidis is
buses
13.
and you only have
This is
one
short.
bus wide. You don't double park the buses on that.
No.
So you have 12 buses, they're in the loop in front of the school, and then they're in the parking lot itself.
The buses don't go into the loop in front of the school.
they only stay through the parking lot.
They don't, yeah.
You fit 12 buses in that parking lot?
Yes.
Park them.
They have an assigned spot so children and teachers know exactly what bus they're getting on at the end of the day. We haven't had a child miss the bus in years,
Wow.
whereas
It's a
before they were
miracle.
missing buses every single day.
Okay, so the buses park in the drive lane, is that how that works? Between the parked cars?
The buses in the afternoon,
Yes.
there's no cars parked in there. There's no cars parked in there through the day. So they have,
No, I'm
They-
sorry. Is that whole big lot, there's no cars parked there? Where's the faculty park?
well, there's 2 rows of cars parked in there, but then the front, the area, there's a row right along the grass area there.
This row right
That's
here,
handicap
there's no-
parking.
There's no cars.
Then
in
there's
this
no
row.
cars.
No cars.
They park here and they park here.
Yeah.
How about, go ahead, Tom.
There's a fence that I've seen cars parked behind the fence in what I thought was the playground area.
Those are our faculty,
Those are faculty.
How many faculty do you have?
36-ish,
The day,
plus paras and everybody, we
Right.
probably have 50 people parking.
This row is being parked in,
13.
student teachers.
this row and this row,
Yes.
not this row.
I think both sides.
So this road is being
They park
parked
on
in.
both sides.
So
of
it's
that.
just that second row.
Both
Against
sides.
the
They,
grass.
they go in between, the row nearest nearest the playground. There's a row of cars nearest the playground, a single row. And there's a double row that's faculty parking.
There's three.
So they go in
rows.
between there and then there's.
I'm sorry, when you say that, you mean the buses?
The buses.
So the buses are in between, in that
They
driveway?
loop in and they come out angled to exit the parking lot in that area.
They go all the way back to the,
Correct.
there's only one entrance exit into that parking lot.
That is correct.
Okay. It seems like we have enough area paved that we should be able to get this figured out inside.
The problem is you don't want personal cars and buses to interact with each other because kids are walking out to the buses, they'd have to walk between cars.
No, I
So you wanna-
understand that.
You want to avoid having cars in that area there.
So we want to keep the cars on the Ben Franklin side of any barrier.
That is correct.
Do they use, the buses don't use the loop in front of the school even in the morning now?
Everything is loading and unloading there on the side.
They come right in the
Through
cafeteria
the cafeteria
doors. That side.
So the buses, the faculty's already in place by the time the buses show up.
That is correct.
Okay. And you only have 36. There's any of those 36 parking in that old playground area?
I've not counted the spots.
Okay.
We put 9 spots in there.
Oh, the playground area?
Yeah.
Do you still use that as a playground with the vehicles in it?
It's a big space.
There's only
They don't
usually
put any
9 vehicles up
cars.
against the one fence, side of the fence.
Just, I mean, in the morning, and I understand, I mean, the afternoon, the buses are all there at the same time. But in the morning, they come, that's where I think you can alleviate some of the traffic in the morning. If you'd use the bus loop again, then that would allow the parking lot to have all the parents that are dropping off, and they're not gonna be staying on the road there. And I know it's different from morning to afternoon, but I'm just looking at the morning, the buses don't all come at the same time. They're not all sitting there at the same time. I mean, they go drop off. Where in the afternoon, they're sitting there waiting for dismissal.
Last year, they were there at the same
When
time.
White Township came and measured, the recommendation was to move the moving cars to the front loop because if we kept it in the parking lot, it would back up past the light. They came in with a big measuring tape
There
and,
was less room in the parking lot than there
Yeah.
was
correct,
for that loop in the parking lot than there was in
correct.
the other loop.
And it moved it up away from the light, moving it up.
The other option we could do is we could double stack the cars. Make one row against the closest to the school and one row closest to the grass. And we could dismiss this row first and then block off anybody coming in and then dismiss this row. That would alleviate most of it, but I don't know if it'll alleviate all of it.
I mean,
The police highly recommended against that and
Against
said that if we
double
did that, we would have to put in the, what are
You'd
those
have to
things
put
called?
some
The
type of
ball-
a barrier or bollard or something like that,
Yeah, the
just to
ballers.
allow for students to get to the.
Now, we did ask the police to be the first day to kind of wave people on. If they start to park there, just, give them one of these. The Indiana Borough Police can't enforce any of the laws out of there because it's a public, or it's a state
White Township.
road.
It's jurisdictional.
So the state police aren't really interested and don't think that's a solution to start giving people tickets for blocking the traffic. So if that's where we are, we just kind of thought if the police, if our borough police were there just saying, hey, move on, don't block it after we send home a letter and a reminder that says, please do not do this, do not block the traffic, it's illegal. If a police officer is waving them on, maybe they'll go around the block. If we do that for the first couple of days, maybe
They
they'll.
might start showing up without a 20-minute wait. I mean,
Say again?
well, I mean, why wouldn't you go around the block?
Well, I think
They
they.
all back up
well,
there.
that's not
Pushing for
just.
time,
yeah.
I gotta
I
get
mean,
my
the
kid
parents
to
are going
dance,
to, they have to go to
so-
work, they have to get to work, so they're waiting there to
Yeah.
drop the child off, but then they get to work.
And the perception is if I go on blocks.
I'm gonna be further behind.
Yeah, I'll be further behind the
So,
line.
6 spaces here.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm speculating, but that's the thing. The solutions that we have solve 90% of the problem. None of them, I don't think, solve 100% of the problem. And then no matter what change we make, we're possibly making it less safe for kids than whether
I
The
have a
first day
question.
is typically pretty bad because a lot more people drop off on the first day. It's the first day of school.
I was gonna ask you, do you have the same people every day doing this, or does it vary? Like maybe only
No.
one family only does it once a week?
Well, I see what you're saying. It varies. There are some everyday pickups, and then there are some that just pick up on Wednesdays, some pick up on Tuesday. Yeah, that does vary.
So what's your worst day for the backups?
Wednesdays are typically pretty bad.
I bet you
Lot of
80% of it's the
activities.
same. I bet you 80% of it's still the same every day.
Yeah.
At least 80%.
High?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Okay.
we don't have that data yet. So I don't know,
Well, let's look at it a little bit more.
my recommendation would be let's see if the police officer waving people on solves the problem. If it stays a problem, then, we can say, listen, we have to act. At that point, for us to go against the police saying what you're doing is the safest and best option, literally word for word what they said in their traffic study. For us to go against that, we need some sort of reason. Like if we have to exhaust those other efforts, in my opinion,
Well, yeah, let's take a look
Bringing
at
it
it a little
up,
bit.
paving a loop around the
around the building.
You encroach on the parking lot and the playground on the
Well,
backside of the
actually, you
building.
could take away that softball fence that's dilapidated and put a little pavement there and
You
put
could actually do it on the other
Maybe.
side and maybe dismiss out of the first wing. If you
On the
did
other-
do a loop on that, if you're facing the school on the left side of the school, there's
Yeah.
that big space.
Another option might be to pave
Where we all
Over
went
the
into the outdoor
parking
playground?
lots.
parking lots, so you have, move one of
Yeah,
those
on that side.
cars out of there, and then you could
That's-
come up with some
Yeah,
sort of
that's
parent
also
loop
do.
that's
Yeah,
longer,
there's-
yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
That's
idea.
That's gonna cost money, that's the one thing. Whatever our solution is gonna cost
That's
us.
better than the lawsuit.
Pretty much every
You know,
idea that
let's
Red Rock suggested was
let's
something that's
table
gonna
this
cost
and
us
take a
money.
look. Let me
Yeah.
take a look at it.
And
I
that's
know
not
more
what
about
they
what the
want.
rules are now. We're not gonna accommodate 65 cars on
Say
site,
it's drive
but maybe we could
adjournments.
accommodate 30 or 40. And figure out how to do that. That's, it's
Road's
possible.
already there 'cause
It's good that the buses are already there and leaving. So we just have to accommodate those buses now too. But there's a lot of pavement here. And trying to utilize that without increasing our pavement would be the smart move to make here. Okay, and hoping that people aren't gonna drop off their kids or pick up their kids is
Everything that goes on buses, I can see why parents don't put their kids on buses.
that's where they all grow up. Welcome to life.
I'm just saying, it's a lot different than what it was 30 years
Well,
ago.
then I wish we
Oh, no, I got sat on for a whole year, so 30, 40 years ago, they were still
Summer
doing mean
work
things to
update,
kids.
right?
Okay.
Summer work update.
Transportation update. Michael,
Some work update.
oh, sorry.
So the list I provided at the beginning of summer, most of that is complete. All of the outsourced maintenance projects have been completed except for the blacktop repairs at the junior high parking lot. And the asphalt paths at Ben Franklin and East Pike. Ben Franklin is done. He's gonna come back and fix up a couple things that we didn't like there, but he was supposed to come out this afternoon and start East Pike. So his goal is to be done before school starts on Thursday. And everything in-house is mostly done. The only things that are not complete are the VFD for the heating pumps at the senior high boiler room is not installed. It's on site, but not installed yet. The equipment repair for the playgrounds is ongoing and mulch will be arriving next week. We pressure washed as much of the junior high facade as we could, within reason. The higher areas would have to get a lift and that was, cost prohibitive, so we held off
I
on.
think it looks nice.
pressure washing the high part. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did the
looks
low
nice.
parts so that like the front area is cleaned
People
up.
don't have to look up.
Um, we're wrapping up the bathroom for the autistic support classroom at Horace Mann. The auxiliary building here is pretty much cleaned out. We still have a little bit to get out of there, but it's mostly done. And that was something else we hadn't done yet.
Talk about the painting in the junior high.
Oh, the junior high auditorium, yeah, that is not done.
That's the other one.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out as far as cost goes. And so it's gonna be an expensive project, so,
Yeah, that's one where there's somebody's gonna have to build
yeah.
the
Those scaffolding.
scaffold to the ceiling and do some significant repair there. So,
Right.
we were hoping to have that done before the end of the summer, just because, it's difficult to do during the school year because it shuts down the auditorium at that time. But it doesn't appear that we're gonna have anybody that's going to.
Are you having any trouble getting somebody? I know a good firm in Greensburg that does that kind of work. Beautiful.
It'd be great if you have a
Yeah,
Right.
just look into it.
We just got a quote off a state contract, and it's $300-some thousand
Oh,
to paint it.
I don't think it looks that bad.
I think it looks pretty good.
It has an antique look.
It is, it's a
Kind of
very,
an
it's a
antique look
beautiful
about it.
ceiling and it is damaged and it's one of those
Okay,
wish lists.
but it's not leaking.
It's
The roof's
not
not
leaking
leaking
currently that we know of.
Okay. So you were pretty successful in getting the list done this summer.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great. That's great.
yeah, I feel good about what we accomplished. Not to mention keeping up with work orders and all the work orders that the teachers and staff had put in at the end of the school year. We got most of those knocked out, and of course, just our regular work orders as well, so.
And I'd like to applaud Dave and, for stepping into this role, last minute, right before the summer work rush came. He's done a great job leading us so far, and his staff has done a fantastic job getting a lot of those things knocked off. So I want to
I just have to say, I was so grateful that Dave came to the buildings before school was out and with the work orders went and just asked teachers clarifying questions, take a look at the rooms to see where, some of the things needed. So thank you for that. That was really wonderful.
Well, you're
That was-
welcome.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was because in years past, and what I found out was that teachers get a form that they fill out right before the end of the school year. They turn that in and they walk out the door. So then the secretary creates a bunch of work orders based on those forms, and we get work orders that don't really make sense to us. So, and we have nobody to ask because they're gone on their summer vacations or whatever. So I wanted this year to I asked the secretaries to send out a request for anybody that needs anything done to get it in before the end of the school year, so that I had the opportunity to go and research anything that we didn't quite understand, so that we at least knew what needed to be done.
That personal touch was definitely
So.
recognized and appreciated. So thank you.
Mr. Harley Wade, McLean would like to say
I would
something.
echo that. I think Dave has not only stepped in, but he stepped up. And a lot of things around the senior high school, a lot of those projects were completed. We have new chairs in our LGI. Thank you, Dave. We used those this morning. I know he's working against shipping.
And they didn't
Yeah.
fall over the chairs.
No. And also, the district continues to
That saved us a couple $100,000.
use the senior high students in the summer, but those students did a nice job
Oh, good.
of supporting.
Yeah.
How many students did you use?
They did. We had, I think 10 total.
Great.
And they all were very helpful. My staff was very pleased with the work that they were doing, and complimented them frequently.
They get like credit, or is that
Get paid.
job?
They get paid.
Paying them in summer
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, so,
I was unaware of that. That's fantastic.
yeah, it was, I think it was successful, what we did in hiring them in the spring and bringing them in before the end of the school year, and had them all ready to go when summer hit. And they helped clean. We had some helping with grounds, and so,
I think next year, one thing that we may try and do is advertise strictly for somebody to mow. We didn't really feel comfortable allowing the high school kids on our zero turn mowers and doing that kind of stuff. So we're hopefully going to try and advertise for people who maybe have a little bit more experience, maybe some retirees who that's all they want to do is kind of come in and
I've had some real great experience with some of these rural kids that know more about machinery than I do. Yeah, so,
I'm
so,
sure, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Just-
yeah, I was able to hire a guy for my softball tournament to build a truck when he was 14, so it took him 2 years. Okay, and that kid could run a zero-turn machine better than I ever got close to.
Yeah.
So we do have those kids around that can help us out a good bit and also get valuable experience and some cash. And so I'd certainly like to see that program expand
Yeah.
and continue. So we have kids that can do this work. Great. I'm glad to hear that we got most things done this year. Okay, now, you've been
Transportation update.
champing at the bit.
I have. It's good news though. So, we are very busy right now. We're getting our last minute inundation with new registrations, changes, requests and things like that. We're doing our best to accommodate. The schedules were sent out with at the elementary level, they were sent out with the classroom information. So elementary levels received their bus schedules along with their teacher assignments and everything at the elementary level. At the senior high level, everything is in Power School. Or at the secondary level, everything's in Power School. So students just have to log into their Power School information, go to transportation, and there should be bus information in there for them so they know what their schedules are. Speaking with our contractor, I don't want to say that we have a surplus, but we have enough drivers to get the year started with a few extra, they say. So we're very fortunate that things are looking up in that. It's probably attributed to the new contract, new agreement we have with them, and they're doing a very good job of holding true, and they're going to take care of the drivers. So.
You haven't had a single complaint this year?
Oh, I didn't say that, but no, we're, like I said, we're doing our best to accommodate.
They're working
Well,
through them, they're
We'll
doing
see,
a great
we'll
job.
see if we can still say that on Friday.
They're doing a
Okay,
great
very good.
job.
Wayne, do you have any information on the high school science room?
We do. We met with the teachers in question in the rooms to bring the committee back up to speed. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, Wade, 4 functional labs, or is it 5?
We have
You have 3
2A, 210, 212, 214 on the one side, and we have
You have
230, 228, 215 on the other side.
So you have 3 full-size chemistry labs.
Correct, and a few.
Okay. And then we have 2 biology labs.
3 biology labs and 1 physics lab.
We have 2 teachers, though, who teach science, who do not have any lab equipment in their room. They just have regular classrooms. One has a sink that she says works most of the time. So they would like to have their rooms updated so that they can be flexible, where they can teach. Imagine the desks in the middle and then the lab tables around the outside.
Now, what we talked about taking 3 of the classrooms according to 2 lab.
Correct.
Is that still on the table?
Yes.
Yes.
So 3 to 2. What are those numbers, Wade?
Numbers of those rooms would be 209, 211, and 221.
That's impressive.
Okay, and we combine those into 2 much larger rooms.
Yes.
And
Correct.
and they when I was talking to them, I didn't get the impression that they needed 18 sinks in every room. Is that what they're heading toward?
No, what they're looking for is a model, like remember 215, where there would be the stations on the outside, permanent stations on the outside, and then fixed seating, or not fixed, I'm sorry, movable seating on the inside so they can move furniture around for whatever science activities.
Okay, but we don't need gas any longer.
They don't want
We do
gas.
not need gas in those two.
Water at the lab stations would be preferred. And the one teacher that could teach chemistry would need a hood and all the safety equipment, it's the safety shower, the eye wash station, et cetera. The teacher who teaches the earth and environmental science wouldn't need all of that. But the access to water would be nice, and storage was the big thing, because they have a lot of rocks and things that they need to store that they don't use for most of it.
Okay, do they have to have 18 sinks?
No, I don't think that
No,
was.
they're, those stations are, I want to say, lab stations hold, accommodate 4 to 5 students, so you need a sink per, we looked at 25 kids in a class, 5 sinks. 6 if it works out symmetrically.
Okay, now the chemistry labs, each one has a sink. There's
Currently,
currently in 215, each one had a sink.
In 215, that is correct,
Yes,
yes.
yeah, and that might, in my mind, that's a chemistry lab.
Yes.
Now, I understand that some of the chemistry labs are being used not to teach chemistry.
Correct, one is used for biology and environmental science.
Okay, so we could teach chemistry in chemistry labs without building a new chemistry lab.
That's correct.
we could, absolutely.
Yeah, well, chemistry labs are real expensive.
They are, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And in one of those interior rooms, you would need the fixtures or equipment for teaching biology and environmental science.
and again, in my mind, those are simpler labs than the chemistry lab.
Much.
Okay, so we need to put a budget on this and see what we can get done.
Which means we need to hire someone to lay this out for us.
Well, I'll do a quick layout just to get a budget, so we can put a budget into the capital. Okay, if that's, you're not gonna pay me, so it's not a conflict of interest.
Fair enough.
But at least we get a budget started and we can then rate it, but I also would like to get that and the next thing.
Family consumer science, exactly. And if we are gonna have to hire someone for the food service thing, to your point, if you could put a couple of these jobs together for one final architect to, actually put a bid and, put a proposal together, that makes a lot of sense to me, to do these 3 things together and just put that RFP out for services.
Yeah,
Like you said, if we get it done now, we do the RFP, if someone is interested, they can get us something together.
well, yeah, we have a chance of doing something this summer.
So I guess the only issue with that goes to Jared's point. Now we have the science room and the consumer science and the kitchen, but we wanted to use kitchen funds for the kitchen part. Are we gonna be able to break that out
Yeah.
and pay for it?
Yeah, we would bid those
Separate.
as under one umbrella, but separate bids, so that he could keep the money clean,
So bid 1A and 1B.
or 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we would just need to
Just,
keep
yeah,
the kitchen side completely separate.
practically, I wanted to make sure that was brought up because
Yeah, that's a good point.
it muddies the waters a whole lot if you're, paying an architect to design everything. Well, what part of it was designing this kitchen fund? How much are we paying you out of that?
Yeah, well, any architect can keep his time separate.
And again, to be clear for everybody and for our guests, the family consumer science is not an expansion of just the cooking class. This is the model for that aspiring educators program, that we're working on with the ICTC. So this would be something that could, in theory, be available to all students from all over, if we get that across the finish line as well. So,
But when you say that, you also have to admit how popular it is just with our students.
oh, it is. I mean, there's 18 students in that twice a day. So is that correct? There's
No, 3 times a day.
3 times a day, my fault. So yes, it's a very popular program as it is, and it's crowded in the space that it's in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I certainly advocate that that room has a restroom for the kids in the facility. Right now, it does not. And I
The
should,
origin- I'm sorry.
and I should have another grandchild come through there in another year.
Hurry up, right?
You know, hurry up and get the bathroom there.
The original plan of converting rooms 214, 216, and 218 is a very viable one. That's what,
My daughter forgot that I'm at school board on Monday night.
So,
that's the child development room in room 214. There'll be transition storage and restroom in the 216.
Right.
And the lecture or classroom area will be 218.
Yeah, so there's minimal work in 218.
Yeah.
And the restroom and food prep in 216 and storage. One of the problems we saw in the room that they currently have is a lot of that room's taken up with stuff. And so this would give them a place to keep stuff. And the 214 would be the child teaching room, and also it would have access to the outside.
Correct.
So, okay. Okay, so Reagan needs this done by 2026. Okay. Okay, and so the scheme that I sketched is acceptable?
I think Sarah had only made one request, something about moving the walkway or providing more storage. We can get that from her.
I'll do an estimate, just to get things budgeted. And then you can go find yourselves an architect. I'll give you names of all my friends.
But that, we appreciate that, and we'll get on that.
Yeah, I tried to do that last time, but I don't have that many friends. Okay, what else do we have?
I believe that's it,
There's
sir.
additional items.
Additional items? We good?
You're only a little bit over.
Well, it's because Julie wouldn't stop talking.
I'm not finding that payment, but I'll try to track it down.
Okay.
I thought I